YouTube, it's Kathy, and as you've probably guessed today, I'm doing the currently reading tag. I'm going to read the questions off my laptop because they're long. First one, how many books do you usually read at once? Usually I will have an audiobook on the go and 1 to 2 physical copy books depending on what I'm reading at that point. Number 2, if you're reading more than one book at a time, how do you decide when to switch to reading the other book? This mostly has to do with what I feel like reading at that exact moment. For instance, if I'm reading a nonfiction that's very, very dense and I just kind of need a break and something light and fluffy, I will usually switch to whatever fiction I'm reading at the time. That's not to say that I'm always reading a nonfiction or fiction, because that's definitely not true, and it's not to say that all nonfiction is really, really dense and hard to read. It's just an example of when I would tend to switch. Number 3, do you ever switch bookmarks when you're partway through a book? Sometimes, not very, very often, but occasionally if I am reading a very, very short book and using a very, very long bookmark and it's starting to get ratty at the top and I notice, I switch to a different bookmark. Some bookmarks I don't care about. Some bookmarks are like little mementos of either a thing that I really like or a place that I've been, so I try to keep them from getting all ratty. And then the really big ones I have tend to be bookstore ones from around town that I could easily replace just by going book shopping, and getting it for free with my purchase, so it's fine. Number 4, where do you keep the book that you're reading? Usually my book will be in the tote bag that I'm using at the time. This is my Famous Frequency one. I also have a really great Welcome to Night Vale one that I tend to use. And it'll be in there, especially if I'm going places, either to work or to a restaurant, specifically to read usually, and I guess the food is kind of secondary. And then if I'm at home, my bag usually hangs on the back of a doorknob, so it will be in there until I need the book. So I will get the book and start reading it, and usually put it down on my bedside table, or if it's too filled with crap, I'll put it on the floor right next to my bedside table, so when I wake up in the morning, it's within arm's reach and I can just start reading again. Number 5, what time of day do you do most of your reading? This really varies depending on my day. Sometimes I work in the evening, sometimes I work a regular 9 to 5 type of shift, sometimes I don't work at all, but I have other things to do. So when I'm working a 9 to 5 or a 10 to 6, I tend to try to sneak in at least an hour of reading in the morning. Sometimes I manage to do this while I'm on my exercise bike. That is the best possible thing that could be happening, but often I just get stuck into the book and then remember I was supposed to be exercising. I also really love coming home at night and reading in my apartment, but depending on what's happening in my apartment, it's not always a thing that I can do. So my next 2 possible places are either in the bath for my Wednesday tradition, I love that tradition, or also on my lunch break at work. I make it a point to read on my lunch break at work. Number 6, how long do you read for in one go? It really depends, again. I mean, on Sunday I read for basically 12 hours, but like I got up and was making food while I was still reading. That's mostly because I was reading my first book for the library-a-thon and I really needed to get it done on the first day, otherwise I would be behind on finishing books for the rest of the week. Usually if I can manage it, I will try to do between an hour or 2 hours depending on what I'm reading and depending on what my time schedule is like. And it also depends on what I'm reading at the time. Sometimes you read something and you have to put it down for a little while. Number 7, do you read hardcovers with the dust jacket on or off? I tend to read them with it on, mostly because I get my books from the library most times, and they have that kind of clear protective covering, and then they're taped on. You can't really take them off because then you're kind of destroying the library book. But also when I happen to have my own copy or somebody else's copy of a hardcover, I tend to leave the dust jacket on. I find myself just like looking to see if the inside of the book looks really cool, but then just putting it back on. Number 8, which position do you mainly use to read? I tend to use a feet up, leaning back on something position. I tend to read on my bed quite a lot, or I tend to curl up on the little couch in my apartment quite a lot, but I'll like do the leaning against the arm type of thing and put a pillow behind there. Obviously there's more of a chance of falling asleep if you do something like that, so sometimes if I'm really trying to get through something and I know I need to get through it, I will have a sitting up kind of lean forward position, and it's harder to start falling asleep that way. And then of course lying down in the bathtub, but then I also do a lot of sitting up in the bathtub depending on how hot the water is and how much I'm sweating from bath salts and that type of thing, because I don't want to drip on the book. Number 9, do you take the book that you are currently reading everywhere you go? Yes. And number 10, how often do you update your progress on the books that you're reading on Goodreads? I tend to tell Goodreads when I'm starting the book and when I've finished the book, and I don't actually tend to give anything star ratings or any comments whatsoever. I just use it as a, hey, I have read these books this year type of anything. All the commentary for the books that I've read I do in booktube format in my weekly wrap-ups, which if you haven't seen them before, you should check out. There should be links in places. And that's it for this tag. As with most tags, I wasn't tagged, so I'm not going to tag anyone specific. I'm just going to say if you would like to do the tag, just do the tag. They're fun. Do the thing. Also, if you can relate to any of the answers to the questions I gave, let me know about them down in the comments below. On the way down in the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you later. Bye.